Hi, I'm Patrick Giguère with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology. Thanks very much for tuning into this video and for dropping into my YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with my channel and my work, please consider subscribing, liking the videos, sharing the videos. And if you haven't been to my website, it is thecosmicalchemist.com. So anyway, let's get into this topic. So I wanted to talk today about this whole round earth versus flat earth thing, and kind of the implications of both of those views, and then talk about my own opinion and and why I think that way. So yeah, let's just jump into this. So this is something that's been going around on the internet for a long time, and it's interesting too where flat earth is even becoming, it's part of the truth movement, part of the freedom movement. It's kind of one of the things that's like hitched its wagon to the whole truth movement and the freedom movement. Now the thing that really interests me about this whole topic is that it's like yet another duality in our world. So this whole like Coke versus Pepsi, us versus them, it's like, well, we're nearly identical, but mine is better. So we see so much of this: left versus right, Democrat versus Republican, vaxxed versus unvaxxed, atheism versus religion. So now, this whole flat earth versus round earth. It's just another expression of dualism. And people saying, well, it's this way or it's nothing. And if you don't hold my view, then you're a complete idiot. So that tends to not be something that I want to be part of, because it doesn't go anywhere good. It's just more bickering and squabbling. And really, bickering and squabbling, it's a nice distraction for people who are basically running the world. They love it when us peasants squabble, and we don't really get anything productive done. So yeah, whether it's like flat or round, if you're like digging your heels in and just thinking everyone else is a fucking moron for not taking your view, you're not helping anything. So you're not helping freedom, you're not helping truth, you're not helping freedom of expression. You're just basically turning into your enemy. You're adopting the inflexibility and the closed-mindedness of your enemy. So yeah. So what do I think about, is the earth flat or is it round? Well, there's kind of both to it. It's like neither, but then it's both at the same time. Definitely from our point of view on Earth here, the Earth is pretty flat. But then at the same time, I don't think like a plate, like a flat thing floating around in space, I don't think it really conforms to sacred geometry, the laws of sacred geometry all that well. And and I do believe that the earth and the sun and all these things are moving through space. So I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of all the science and physics of this, but in my understanding of flat earth, a lot of people are saying, well, the answers are in the Bible, you just have to look in there. So what people are basically getting out of the Bible in some cases, and then from other ancient sources, is that the earth is like this plate, this flat thing. It's not really moving. And basically they're saying that like the sun is really this tiny little thing that's just a few miles across. And it's only a few miles over our heads. And then the moon is like another little tiny thing that's only a few miles away. And the Earth is just sitting there and there's no movement. Like I said, I'm not well versed in flat Earth. This is what I've gleaned conversationally. So I'm not looking to make an authoritative video on this subject. I'm just throwing my 2 cents in. So these are details I've gleaned from people and from friends who are into this. So it's basically the Earth is stationary, doesn't move through the universe. It's flat, and the sun and the moon are just these tiny little things that are only a few miles above the surface of the Earth. And you know, it's kind of all there is to it. And basically Antarctica surrounds the planet with like, and I think there's an ice wall that we can't see past or something. So yeah, I mean, I can see why people are saying this. I really think flat Earth is a PSYOP. I also think the cut and dry round Earth is also a PSYOP. I think they're both PSYOPs. I think there's some truth in the middle of this, but it's neither. I think the true nature of the Earth is neither, because it is a proven fact that I think only it's 1 or 2 unedited photos of the Earth from space have ever been released to the general public. Otherwise, they've been photoshopped, they've been highly edited, or they're just artistic depictions of the Earth, and the same goes for all the other planets. So yeah, I think flat Earth is a PSYOP, but then I think cut and dry round Earth, well, NASA's telling us the truth. Mainstream university science is telling us the truth. That's another PSYOP. That's like the oldest PSYOP that was inherited from religion. So, because again, science is a religion. So, they're both PSYOPs. Now, to what goal, to what end would somebody encourage a flat Earth PSYOP? Well, from my point of view as an astrologer, things are definitely looked at geocentrically. So geocentric means Earth in the center, means the Earth is the center of the whole cosmos. The sun's going around the Earth, the moon's going around the Earth, all the planets, stars are going around the Earth. That's geocentric. So by and large in astrology, there's also heliocentric astrology, but I practice Vedic, which is geocentric. So relative to the Earth, everything in the sky is moving around it. So yeah, as an astrologer, I look at things through this geocentric lens because it's our relative point of view, it's our subjective point of view, that we on Earth are in the center and that everything is going on around us. Now the interesting thing about this is that when you take it down to a micro level, as individual people, from a certain perspective, it's like we are each the center of the universe. We all live in a slightly different universe, and to a degree we are the center of our universe because you look out of your 2 eyes and all the sensory information comes in, and it's like you can't see your own face. It's like you can't see the Earth while you're standing on it. I mean, you can see your little patch of the surface, you know, as far as your eye can see, but you can't see the big macro view of the Earth. So, yeah, I get it. It's like there is a relative point of view where it's like we're all the center of the universe. So then by extension of that, the Earth is the center. But I don't think either one are the full objective reality. So I think the objective reality is like everything is moving. Everything is moving. You know, I'm also an acupuncturist, so when it comes to Chinese medicine, or just natural medicine in general, everything in a body needs to be moving. When things stand still, they get stagnant, disease sets in, and you can die. So for the Earth not to be moving, I think that's stagnation. Like it's intellectually stagnant. I think this is popular though because there are so many overwhelming and freaky things going on in the world, and people are just like, I just can't, like, they'll just tell you, I can't deal with this idea that we're flying through the universe at, I don't know, 66,000 miles per hour or something. They don't want to do that. I mean, they just want to take a minute and just sit down and be still. And I totally get that, because everything going on in the world, and plus just daily life, can be pretty damn overwhelming. So I understand why they don't like this idea of that the Earth and the Sun and the whole solar system is flying through the galaxy, you know, at some fantastic rate of speed like that. But another thing astrologically is that the planets, all of the celestial bodies, they represent different forces within our psyche. So astrology is really a map of the mind, collectively and individually. So in astrology, the sun represents the soul, and then the moon represents the mind. So the soul and the mind are basically what kind of animate the physical body. And the physical body is really like almost a byproduct of the soul and the mind. So in this flat earth view, to have a sun that's maybe just a few miles in diameter, and it's only 10 miles above the earth, what this is doing is, on a subconscious level, on an unconscious level too, this is basically shrinking down the power of the soul, because again, the sun is a symbol for the soul. It's diminishing and it's shrinking down the role and the power of the soul in our lives. And then to say the same thing about the moon, the mind, it's diminishing, it's diminuting, it's shrinking down the power of the mind and its indispensable role in our lives. So by just saying that the sun and the moon are these little tiny things that are just a few miles away, they're basically like little flies up there, we're basically saying that materialism is the important thing and that the soul and the mind are just sort of incidental. That's the way I read this. And so when you add all this up, when you add all this up to where the sun and moon, soul and the mind are really minor things compared to the earth, which is kind of the end-all be-all at the center of it all, and it's not moving, and everything in existence is revolving around it, I think this has become a PSYOP to bring people back to a childish mentality, because psychologically, this is something that categorizes little children. Little children think that they are literally the center of the universe. They think that basically the whole universe was born the moment they were born. They don't have a sense of things being eternal. They don't have a sense of time. And they don't understand that, other people have their own lives and they have things that they need, and they can't always cater to the whims of the child. So I think when you put the earth in the center like that and you diminish the size and the role of the sun and the moon, I think this is all about getting the masses of the people to revert to a childlike mentality, just like people had in medieval times. And another thing you have to take into account, the Catholic Church, and then just later the Christian churches in general, to a lesser degree. They weren't as bad as the Catholic Church, but these churches were punishing people for studying the cosmos, for studying the stars and planets, and for saying things like, oh yeah, there are planets just like Earth out there because there are so many stars and the universe is so big. They were punished for saying that the Earth is not the center of the universe. And they were punished for looking into this topic and saying that our world, our Earth, is just a small part in a much larger universe. And in our little solar system, the sun is actually this vast star, and the Earth is almost like this little speck that's orbiting it. You know, people were punished with torture, humiliation, and death by religious institutions for studying these things and thinking about them and teaching people about them and writing about them. So that's a good potential motive. Flat Earth PSYOP is that it's just to get people to revert to a medieval mindset. And really, the mega banks, the mega corporations, the mega trillionaires that own all of the politicians and every government on earth, they would love nothing more than for us, for we the people, who they see as peasants, you know, just like Nancy Pelosi was saying, she eats like a peasant at 5:30 every evening.
And to this day, my husband, Paul, who was born and raised in San Francisco, I was born and raised in Baltimore. To this day, he likes to dine at 8, and I like to eat at 5:30. Like a peasant.
They would like nothing more than for us peasants to just go back to that medieval mentality, because that's how they want to run the world. You know, a group of people, a group of a few thousand people want to own everything and crush economic mobility, social mobility, the ability for just regular, everyday people to build wealth. They love to crush all that, and they'd love us to have the mentality of the medieval serfs, the medieval peasants, who just farmed the land for the aristocrats and for the religious leaders, and they just shut up and just dealt with their lot in life, that they were going to work their asses off day in and day out, and they were going to basically give the fruits of their labors to their lords and masters. So yeah, I think this flat earth view of things really engenders a childish mentality, and it brings us back to the mindset of a medieval peasant. Because again, in medieval times, the church was telling everyone, the earth is at the center, and don't think about anything else, and if you think about anything else, we might kill you. So I think this is a no-brainer here. You know, when people look for the answers to this topic in the Bible, well, most of the Bibles, especially in the English-speaking world that are in circulation, they're based on the King James Bible, which was edited by Francis Bacon, who was most likely the real William Shakespeare. It was written in Shakespearean style, so basically the King James Bible is like a Shakespearean pulp fiction. And, you know, it's just kind of like the cheap dramatic literature of the time. And Francis Bacon, who was the editor of the Bible, was the leader of multiple secret societies in England. And he was part of Queen Elizabeth's intelligence network, part of her secret service, along with John Dee, who was the original 007. Make a video about that some other time. So yeah, this is who this information is coming from. So yeah, this King James Bible, who people think is, you know, they think it's the directly inspired word of God. It was written written and edited by members of secret societies that the Bible crowd loves to call Luciferians and Satanists and all this shit and blah blah blah. So it's like, you know, get with it. Like if you really want to like if you want a watertight Bible, go look at the Sinai Bible. It's from like, I think the 6th or the 7th century. It was lost for a long time and then found. It's from Egypt, from a monastery up in the Sinai Peninsula. That's probably the closest thing that you're going to get. But even that was tampered with because that was post-Constantine. So, in the 4th century, I think it was like the year 325, Emperor Constantine, the Roman emperor, went and held a council, and they restructured the Bible, and they created an authorized Bible, just like the King James authorized. An authorized Bible in those days, whether you're talking about King James or back in the Roman imperial days, if you read a different version of the Bible rather than the authorized one, it meant they might come kill you or torture you. It didn't mean, well, you're wrong and you're not a good person. There are serious repercussions. So when you're not allowed to think about something and read about something, it's a big deal. A Roman emperor or a king or whoever basically giving you a holy book and saying this is the one that will bring you to, I don't know, whatever the fuck your goal is, whether it's salvation or I don't know. If you're trusting a politician about that, then you're really missing the point, because politicians are politicians. It doesn't matter who they are or what year it was in. They weren't holy men just because they have their names attached to these books. So anyway, yeah, I wouldn't look at the Bible as a source of credible scientific information when you consider who's tampered with it. So, what else did I want to say about that? But yeah, so like I said, that's what I think about the flat Earth thing. I don't think round Earth, that strict round Earth interpretation, I don't think that's accurate either. I think there are a lot of things about Earth and about outer space that we don't know the first thing about. I think there's something to the hollow Earth because, basically the Ahnenerbe, which was the archaeology and research division of the SS in Nazi Germany, they had a very close relationship with Tibetan Buddhism. Actually, the Nazi government had a very close relationship with Tibetan Buddhism. And I think the idea that the Nazis were given maps of the inner earth by the Tibetans is very credible. And there was even, I can't remember the guy's name, he was an engineer for the U.S. Army during the 1800s. He wrote a book about the whole concept of the hollow earth. I think there's something to that. I think the earth is basically like a toroid shape. It's kind of like it's like if you took an apple and you just hollowed out the inside. I think that's what that is. I think the core of the earth is basically like a miniature star. Makes sense to me. I think the northern lights may very well be, the light shining out. I could be totally wrong, and I'm totally comfortable with that, but I definitely think that there's more going on than we know, and there's a hell of a lot we're not told, because we're not entitled to be told the truth. Nobody gives a shit if you own a home and went to college and have a career or in the military. Nobody cares. Nobody with an ounce of power in this world cares. So nobody's coming to the rescue. We have to help each other figure this all out. So yeah, that's my take about flat Earth. Is there are aspects of it that have truth to it, but really I think people with power in this world want us to have a childlike mentality, and they want us to be like medieval peasants so that they can just act like the church and the aristocrats did in medieval times and just boss everyone around. And this is even, one thing that's proven by combat psychology is that in states of stress, everybody's maturity level, the level at which your emotions and your brain functions, it goes down to that of a 6-year-old in extreme stress. And right now the world is being run in such a way that as many people as possible are in extreme stress all the time. So this is why they're selling mega 48-ounce cups of coffee on every street corner. This is why they're always pushing alcohol. This is why food is so toxic with vegetable oils and a lot of health foods that are not really healthy. It just goes on and on. This is why the news is so nerve-wracking, why you turn it on and it's just people screaming at each other and making fun of each other like children. This is why pop music is stressful to listen to. This is why movies and television shows have become, the experience of watching many of them has become so stressful, as people in power want us to be stressed out all the time because we're really easy to manipulate and rule and control, because your mind reverts back to that of your 6-year-old self. That's just what happens when people are under stress. Doesn't really matter who you are. So yeah, that's my take on all this. So yeah, in some ways the earth is flat, but then in other ways it is round. And I do think it's hollow personally. So I don't know. Maybe we'll find out eventually what the deal is. But thanks for tuning in, and speaking of the earth being at the center with all these planets moving around, if you've not had a reading with me, particularly a Vedic astrology reading, it's a great mind map to really take some of the mystery out of your life and understand how you work, how your mind ticks. And a rune reading is very similar, but rune readings are they're very pointed towards moments in time. It doesn't really tell you how you tick on a deep level. And yeah, I do I Ching readings as well. That's a really good way to understand changes and how situations will change. And then I have my video downloads, some Qigong videos, particularly heart-centered Qigong. That's the one I've really been practicing a lot. Great way to just unload energetic, mental, and emotional baggage. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and talk to you later. Have a good one.